Most people wait for the perfect moment, but the truth is, the moment you start is the moment your life changes. This is the story of someone who had nothing, no money, no support, no chance, yet created a life people admire today. And maybe this could be your beginning too. Life doesn't warn you before it tests you. It just happens suddenly, silently, and brutally. And sometimes the hardest moments become the beginning of something extraordinary. For years, Liam had lived a predictable life, same job, same routine, same paycheck, same disappointments. He wasn't unhappy, but he wasn't alive either. Somewhere deep inside, he knew that life had more to offer, but he never had the courage to step out of his comfort zone. So he stayed where he was, day after day, year after year, until one evening changed everything. It was a cold winter night when Liam found himself sitting alone in his small apartment, staring at a message from his boss. "We're downsizing. Your position has been terminated." Just like that, the stability he had relied on disappeared. Minutes passed, hours passed, but his mind stayed frozen. He felt fear, confusion, anger all at once. Yet hidden beneath all that chaos, there was something else, something unfamiliar, a spark. For the first time in years, his life wasn't predictable. For the first time in years, he wasn't stuck in a routine. For the first time in years, he wasn't trapped. That night, Liam didn't sleep. He walked around his room thinking about everything he had ignored for so long, his passions, his ideas, his dreams. He remembered the notebook he used to carry as a teenager, filled with concepts for products he wanted to invent, businesses he wanted to start, adventures he wanted to chase. He opened his old drawer and found it dusty, worn, forgotten. But when he flipped through those pages, he felt something he hadn't felt in a decade: possibility. Every idea in that notebook reminded him of the version of himself he thought he had lost, the ambitious, fearless, determined kid who believed he could build something great. So he made a decision. Not later, not next week, not when things got better. Right there, right then, Liam decided he wouldn't look for another job. He wouldn't beg for another chance. He wouldn't return to a life that never fulfilled him. He would create something of his own. But reality hit quickly. He had no savings, no investors, no fancy connections, no experience, and no clue where to start. The only thing he had was an idea, a small, crazy idea. And sometimes, that's all you need. For the next few weeks, he worked tirelessly, learning, experimenting, failing, trying again. He turned his living room into a miniature workshop. His dining table became his office desk. He watched free tutorials, used free tools, and built everything from scratch. His friends laughed at him. His relatives told him to be practical. People advised him to stop wasting time. But he didn't stop, because he had already lived safely. He had already lived predictably. He had already lived someone else's definition of success. Now, he wanted to create his own. Slowly, progress began to show. He built the first rough prototype of his idea, a small, simple product that didn't look impressive, but it worked. And that was enough for him to believe. It still wasn't perfect. It wasn't even good, but it was real. And real beats perfect every single time. One evening, while testing the device, it malfunctioned and broke in his hands. Frustration rushed through him. He felt like he had wasted weeks of effort. He felt stupid for believing he could pull this off. He felt tired mentally, physically, emotionally. He sat down on the floor and stared at the broken pieces. And then something clicked. He realized that everything great in life begins this way: broken, imperfect, and unfinished. Success isn't about getting it right the first time. It's about refusing to quit after you get it wrong. So he wiped his tears, took a deep breath, and rebuilt the prototype from scratch. This time, he worked smarter, more confidently, more creatively. And eventually, it worked again. But this time, it worked better. That tiny improvement felt like a victory. A small step, but a powerful one. Because small steps taken consistently lead to giant breakthroughs. And that breakthrough was about to arrive faster than he expected. He needed a way to get his product in front of people, but he had no money for marketing. So he started sharing his journey online. He posted pictures of his messy workshop, videos of his failed prototypes, and stories about his struggles. He wasn't trying to look like an expert. He was just being honest. And that honesty connected with people. A small community started to form around his project. People offered advice, sent words of encouragement, and shared his posts. They weren't just following a product. They were following a story, his story. One day, a popular tech blogger stumbled upon his posts. The blogger wasn't impressed by the prototype itself, but by Liam's resilience. He wrote an article titled, "This Guy Got Fired and Is Building an Empire from His Living Room." The story went viral. Overnight, thousands of people flooded his social media. His inbox was filled with messages from potential customers, investors, and even distributors. The world had finally noticed him. The sudden attention was overwhelming. For months, he had worked in complete isolation. Now, he was in the spotlight. The pressure was immense. He had to deliver on the promises he hadn't even officially made yet. He had to turn his homemade prototype into a market-ready product. Many people in his position would freeze, but Liam remembered why he started. He wasn't doing this for fame or money. He was doing this for the kid with the dusty notebook, for the man who felt trapped, for the possibility of a life he designed himself. He used the momentum to launch a crowdfunding campaign. He set a modest goal, just enough to cover the initial manufacturing costs. He filmed a simple video, standing in his living room, surrounded by his tools and broken parts. He didn't promise a revolutionary product. He just promised to keep trying, to keep improving, and to share every step of the journey with his backers. The campaign reached its goal in less than 24 hours. By the end of the month, he had raised 10 times his initial target. He had gone from being fired and broke to leading a fully funded project with a community of thousands cheering him on. But the real work was just beginning. He hired a small team, rented a small workspace, and started the process of manufacturing. There were delays, production errors, and moments when he thought he couldn't fulfill the orders. Each problem felt like the end of the world, but each time, he remembered sitting on his floor, staring at that first broken prototype. He had come too far to quit now. Months later, the first batch of products shipped out. The reviews started pouring in. People loved it, not just because the product was good, but because they felt connected to its story. They had watched it being born from failure, built with passion, and funded by belief. It wasn't just a gadget. It was a symbol of what happens when you refuse to give up. Today, Liam's company is a multi-million-dollar business. He's no longer working from his living room, but he still keeps the dusty notebook on his desk. He keeps the first broken prototype on a shelf in his office. They are reminders that our greatest strengths are often forged in our weakest moments, that the end of one chapter is often the unwritten beginning of a much better one. So what about you? What's your dusty notebook? What's the idea you've pushed aside? What dream have you labeled as impractical? Maybe you've been waiting for the right time, for more money, for someone's permission. But Liam's story shows us that the perfect moment doesn't arrive. You create it. It's created in the quiet desperation of a late night, in the face of rejection, in the courage to take one small, imperfect step. Your beginning might not look glamorous. It will be messy, filled with doubt, and probably a few broken pieces. But it will be yours, and that's what makes it powerful. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Pick up your own pen, open a blank page, and start writing the story you were always meant to live. The world is waiting to read it. Liam didn't know it yet, but his journey was about to collide with an unexpected opportunity, the kind that changes everything. For weeks, he'd poured everything he had into his prototype, refining it, tweaking it, making it better. Finally, he felt a flicker of confidence, just enough to consider showing it to the world. But that flicker was nearly extinguished by a wave of fear. It's a feeling many of us know well. What if no one cared? What if people laughed? What if he failed, not quietly in his workshop, but out in the open for everyone to see? The fear was paralyzing. Yet, despite the knots in his stomach, he did something incredibly brave. He picked up his phone, recorded a simple, unpolished video explaining his invention, and uploaded it online. There were no fancy edits, no studio lighting, no catchy music, just raw, unfiltered honesty and passion. And at first, nothing. The silence was deafening. No views, no likes, no comments. Every minute felt like an hour, reinforcing his deepest fears. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe his idea wasn't worth it after all. But then, a single notification lit up his screen. One like. It wasn't from a friend or family member obligated to show support. It was from a complete stranger. Someone who had no reason to care, yet did. His heart skipped a beat. A few minutes later, another notification. A comment. "This is interesting. Does it come in different sizes?" Suddenly, the world shifted. His heart raced, not with fear, but with excitement. For the first time, he realized that he wasn't just shouting into the void. Someone was listening. People were noticing. He went to sleep that night with a sense of cautious optimism. When he woke up the next morning, his phone was buzzing nonstop. The video didn't just have a few more views. It had thousands. Messages were pouring in, questions about the design, suggestions for new features, requests for different colors, and most astonishingly, pre-orders. The attention was overwhelming, a whirlwind of notifications and inquiries. But for Liam, it was more than just attention. It was validation. It was proof that he wasn't invisible anymore. His dream, once confined to his small apartment, was now being seen, discussed, and desired by the world. Among the flood of messages, one stood out. It was from a local store owner. He had seen the video and was intrigued. He wanted to meet, to see the prototype in person, to discuss the possibility of carrying Liam's product in his store. Liam's mind reeled. He barely had the capacity to make one prototype, let alone fulfill a store order. He didn't have a proper setup, no packaging, no business plan, but he knew this was a door he couldn't afford to leave unopened. With a deep breath, he agreed to meet. 2 days later, Liam sat across from the store owner, his hands trembling slightly as he placed the prototype on the table between them. The man picked it up, turned it over, examined every angle. The silence stretched on, each second feeling like an eternity. Liam held his breath, bracing for rejection. After what felt like a lifetime of careful inspection, the man finally nodded slowly. "It's simple, smart, and surprisingly practical," he said, his voice thoughtful. "People will buy this." He then gave Liam a dose of reality, pointing out the need to improve the design, create professional packaging, and figure out how to scale production. Liam's heart sank a little with each valid criticism. But then came the sentence he had been waiting for, the sentence that would change everything. Despite all that, the owner continued, "I want to place an order. 50 units. 50 units. Liam had only ever built 5, and each one had been a struggle. The number seemed impossibly large, but that order was more than just a number. It was a lifeline. It was a vote of confidence. It meant someone was willing to bet on him. It meant his hard work, his dream, was about to be tested in the real world. There was no turning back now. Liam returned home, but it wasn't the same home he'd left. His small apartment was no longer just a place to live. It became a workshop, a factory, a headquarters. The next 2 weeks were a blur of sleepless nights, endless trial and error, broken tools, and aching hands. The line between day and night vanished. Coffee became his fuel, and determination became his driving force. None of the exhaustion or frustration mattered, because this time, he wasn't just building for himself. He was building for the person who gave him that first like. He was building for the stranger who asked about sizes. He was building for the store owner who took a chance on him. He was building for everyone who believed in him. 2 weeks later, against all odds, 50 units were complete. He delivered them to the store, each one carefully crafted, polished, and packaged. Seeing them displayed prominently on the shelf was a surreal moment. His idea, once just a sketch in a notebook, was now a real product, waiting for a real customer. And the customers came. Within days, the first batch sold out completely. Then the second. Orders kept pouring in, faster than he could make them. The small spark of an idea, born from passion and fueled by a single light, had now ignited into a roaring flame. Through this incredible journey, Liam learned a profound lesson, one that goes beyond business and success. He realized that success isn't about some magical stroke of luck or being in the right place at the right time. It's about persistence. It's about having the courage to start, even when everything seems impossible and the fear of failure is overwhelming. He understood that failure is only temporary, but quitting, giving up on your dream, ensures that defeat is permanent. He learned that every challenge is a stepping stone, not a roadblock. Every setback is a lesson in disguise, and every risk is an opportunity waiting to be seized. The silence after he first uploaded his video wasn't a sign of failure. It was the quiet before the storm. The criticism from the store owner wasn't rejection. It was a roadmap for improvement. Today, Liam's small idea has grown beyond anything he ever imagined. It's not just a product anymore. It's a brand, a movement, a story of resilience and unwavering determination. But above all, His journey is a powerful reminder for all of us. Anyone, absolutely anyone, can start from nothing and create something truly extraordinary. The difference isn't in the resources you have or the people you know. The difference is in the choice to act, the courage to persist through the silence and the doubt, and the unshakable belief that your vision matters. If you've been inspired by Liam's story and want to see more real-life journeys of success, innovation, and personal growth, please show your support. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that can inspire you to take that first step. Thanks for watching.